Listen to that. Brilliant. The spring in Wales, which means all the birds are alive. I mean, they've been alive anyway, but they're very vocal now. But it's still really cold. I initially went to the beach this morning to record this, but it was too cold for me. So I found somewhere slightly more secluded that I haven't been for ages, actually, which is really nice. I was thinking as I was driving down here how easy it is for us to assume that because someone is doing something publicly or outwardly with some degree of visibility, that it comes really easily to them. And the reality is, it doesn't. And everyone has to start somewhere, often with some degree of discomfort. And I relate that to my experience of sharing videos of this kind. It's not so much the video, it's not the medium that's important, it's the nature of what's being shared here, because I can't take this stuff back. It's not something I've premeditated. I haven't thought about what's going to come out. So if I say something embarrassing, I either have to cut it from the video, which you're going to know because you'll see the cuts, or I just have to leave it in and deal with it. And I tend to favour the second option because I want people to know the process. I actually started recording videos. Actually, I can't even remember. I think the first video I recorded was about 2016. So it was the best part of 9 years ago. And those videos don't exist anymore. In some ways, I wish they did, because it'd be very visible to you and to me how much change there's been in that time. But as is the case with many things, I started the sharing and then I just felt really embarrassed. I felt ashamed of who I was at that point in time and didn't continue the process because of that. And I thought, some people need to see that. Sometimes we need to see the journey of becoming, because we see where someone is, and often people only want to show us where they are when they've arrived at whatever point they think is representative of the success they want to broadcast to the world, rather than seeing the process unfolding in real time and all of the mistakes and the discomfort and the awkwardness and all the other stuff that comes with it. I know that means for you as a viewer, perhaps a large amount of what's being explored is either not particularly interesting or relevant, but I'd like to think that there's some relevance in that, because all of us have to start somewhere. And it's easy for me to say this, I suppose. I'm not sure how much truth there is in it, but I'll say it anyway. I think the journey of looking at yourself and starting to work on yourself and improve your life is such a really hard journey, because no one else can do it for you. Self-improvement is, amazingly, after thousands of years of human, or millions of years in fact, of human evolution, all this time that we've spent exploring spiritual practices and meditative practices and religious practices and more contemporary practices of personal development and growth and mindset and all that stuff. It just amazes me after all this time that the majority of our population on this earth have either no awareness or interest in those things. I suppose it's easy for me to say that from this position, because I'm far enough down the path, so to speak, that I can far enough down the path, so to speak, that I can say with some confidence there isn't a better investment I could have made than the one in myself. But before that journey started, I suppose I would have been one of those people who just thought, well, what's the point? This is just me. This is what I'm working with, and this is just the lot I've been given, and I have to accept. And thankfully, life had other ideas. The value isn't necessarily that you're going to start spending time and money and effort on yourself, and all of a sudden you start becoming a successful millionaire YouTuber with fantastic relationships and great job prospects and all the other stuff. I mean, it's possible, I suppose, if that's what you want, but that's not really the point. The point is that you just start to experience a greater degree of satisfaction with what you see in the mirror, and also what you see in the mirror of life. And I'm lost. Never mind. So the value really is that you see yourself as an expression of something limitless rather than something limited. And I'd say that's worth all the effort. It's worth any amount of money or time that you could possibly consider spending, because you can have anything you want and still be miserable. Well, plenty of people out there do. And you can have nothing and be miserable. But equally, you can have nothing or everything and be fulfilled, and it doesn't really matter. And that doesn't mean that you don't feel a sense of sadness, or you don't experience the pain of losing things or losing someone that you care about deeply. It doesn't mean you become just inert and uncaring. Can't think of the word. But it means well, it's interesting actually, because I'm reflecting on this myself as I say it, but it means that you recognise the temporary nature of life, like the experience that we're having, the experience you're having. You're here for a finite period of time, whether you like it or not. You get one chance to be in this body. You get a million chances, or an infinite number of chances, at recreating your life. And that's the value as I see it. It puts things into perspective, knowing that what you are is unlimited and that you have the potential to create anything you want, but also recognising that at some point the form that you find yourself in now will cease to exist. And the sooner you come to terms with that, the sooner you can move forwards. Look at this. So, from lots of discovery, it's like a pillbox or something. I don't know, I'm not really very experienced in this kind of stuff. Cool. Charming. Well, it's a big old structure. About that. So yes, we get to experience the discovery of life as we go. But to bring it back to what I was saying just because I'm doing this, it doesn't mean that I find it easy. It doesn't mean that I find it comfortable. It doesn't mean that there aren't days when I think, what's the point? And that doesn't just extend to videos, I think that extends to life in general. Unfortunately, those days are now they're few and far between, but they used to be reasonably frequent and enduring, as they may be for you. But we have to give ourselves permission to be uncomfortable at times. But if we do it consciously, if we know that it's coming, if we know that growth comes in moments of discomfort, then we don't have such an aversion to it. Now, society is quite good at hiding death and discomfort underneath cloaks and veils, and we don't see them. And we tend to be reasonably avoidant of them in many cases, but actually to acknowledge that discomfort is a natural part of the life experience, and it doesn't mean that you're failing. It means that you're growing. It means that when it comes, you don't fear it so much. You try and run away from it. And you can get to a point where you actually start to seek discomfort, which sounds a bit perverse, really, but it's like going to the gym. Like, we know that going to the gym it's not, for many of us, it's not a particularly pleasant experience. It's not enjoyable. It might not be the first thing on our list. And we know that when we go to the gym, we're going to be sore the next day. We know that we're going to be finding parts of our bodies that we didn't know existed before, muscles in our bodies that are sore that we didn't even realise were there. But we accept that that's a part of the process, and we do it anyway. Yet when we start to look at ourselves in here, should I say, both, then it's like we take that as an indication that we're moving in the wrong direction. And we give ourselves an easy way out. I want to encourage you to just lean into that discomfort. Don't throw yourself in the deep end, by all means. Like, I've done that a few times, and yes, good, it works. It's not very nice in the moment. You don't have to do that. Like, if you're at the very beginning of this transition from being someone who feels like life is just happening to them, and feeling like you're just constantly reacting to the things around you, to considering that maybe you could become the creator of your life, that there is an opportunity for you to have a much more enjoyable, positive life experience. If you're starting out on that journey, then take small steps. That's okay. You don't need to do anything dramatic. Of course you can if you want, but you don't have to. It's nice for us to give ourselves permission to ease ourselves into new things, and it becomes much more sustainable when we do so. It becomes much more sustainable when we start to build habits by immersing ourselves gently into things, and maybe over a period of time we'll start to realise that actually this isn't so bad after all. And we get slightly further in, and before we realise it, we're committed. It's natural. So be okay with that. Be okay with that. I remember the first time I started to work on myself, if I can use that term, I read a Tony Robbins book. And at the time, I'd never heard of Tony Robbins, and I can't even remember why the book appeared to me. I think it was an Amazon recommendation or something like that. So I bought this book, and it was like 500 pages, green. It's got this big man's face on the front, and I thought, oh my God, what am I getting myself in for here? I probably read about half the book. I don't know exactly what it was, but a few things stuck. I thought, oh, okay, this is interesting. My motivation at the time was to help someone else. It wasn't to help myself. But as is the case for many of us, I started going down that road and realised, actually, the only one I can help is me. I can't actually change anybody else. None of us can. As well-meaning as we may think of ourselves, none of us can change anyone. None of us have the power to do that. Of course, we can force people to do things differently. But if the motivation is not intrinsic, if it's not inside of you, then you're not going to be doing it for the right reasons. And you're certainly not going to keep doing it when the external stimulus disappears, which it will at some point. So anyway, I continued doing that. And somehow I ended up with a coach. A series of conversations with various people. Not that I was looking for one, but I don't think many people consciously look for coaches these days. So, and that just sort of opened me. And I thought, well, if he can learn to do it, then so can I. I thought rather than having a coach, I'll just learn how to be one. And then I learn the ways that I can help myself and extend those to others. And here we are. 15 years later, or 10 years later, I can't remember how long. It feels like a lifetime. And I am a different person. I am a completely different person. Life is completely different in so many ways. You wouldn't recognize me. So I'm saying that because I want you to know it's possible. Again, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that there aren't moments when the life that you have built now starts to disintegrate because it's been built on the idea that things can give you happiness, which unfortunately they can't, as much as we would like to think otherwise. And when we start to realise that, we start to realise that much of what we have isn't really that important or meaningful to us, or it just starts to naturally fall away, and we have to go through this process of allowing things to just fall away in our lives. And again, that's not very easy sometimes, but it's, in hindsight, it creates an enormous amount of space for us to consciously insert new habits and lifestyle changes and things of that nature. And create far simpler lives for ourselves, because we as human beings are incredibly good at making things complicated, and I'm no exception. Complication is just a way of us avoiding really what's actually going on beneath the surface, which is we just don't like feeling uncomfortable. And that's the thing. That's the simplicity of it. And when we accept discomfort, as I say, then life tends to take care of the rest. What gives us a helping hand? Oh, I've definitely lost now. So, I'm going to pick this video up in just a moment when I've navigated my way out the brambles I've just walked into. Okay. Discomfort sometimes arises in moments when we're not planning for it. That's a large part of the life experience as well. The value of persistence through the moments of discomfort is that we get to open ourselves up to expanded possibilities. A bit like walking through the brambles to get to this. Look at that. I'm incredibly fortunate to be in reasonably close proximity to the seaside, so I can enjoy walks of this kind, with or without the camera. Especially on days like today, when everyone's in work and I'm not. it's nice to take a moment to take in the sights, take in the world around us, and listen to the sounds of nature. And sometimes that's all we need. And you'll probably notice if you watch any of my other videos, and you continue watching my videos, there'll be a theme, and the theme is slow down. Slow down the pace at which you walk. Slow down the pace at which you breathe, eat, and really slow down the pace at which you think. Because everything that's important gets accomplished. It may not be accomplished on the timelines that you set yourself, but it will get accomplished if it's important to you, because you'll just keep going, you'll persist. And that, to me, is also self-development in a nutshell, really. It's the value of persistence, and I must say, and I certainly don't see this as something that you need to go through, or that you even have to go through if you pay attention to different areas of life than I did. But there'll be moments when you start to learn things, and you start to discover things about yourself, and you'll start to see life in a different way. And someone or something will come out of the blue and take you straight back to where you were before you learned all of that stuff. And for a moment, maybe a long moment, you'll lose sight of all of the change you've been through. You'll lose sight of all of the potential you've discovered about yourself. You'll forget how much value you have, and you'll fall back into those old habits and patterns and ways of being, and you may start to judge yourself, criticize yourself, and be hard on yourself, think that you're making no progress, and start to resort to the ways of coping and managing that you're previously used to. And that is a normal part of the experience. That's okay. It's okay for us to lose our way from time to time, because when we lose our way, what we then have the chance to do is we have the chance to find our way again. And every time we lose our way and find our way, we get to experience the joy of remembering. There's this age-old question in many religious circles and spiritual circles, you know, if the universe or God or the creator, whatever word we want to use, put us here to experience life, to experience perfection and enjoyment, why do we suffer? Why is there suffering? Oh. Why is there suffering? Well, I don't know if my answer is helpful, but it might be useful to have an alternative perspective, which is, well, if we don't know suffering, how can we know joy? We know something because we have the opposite, because we've experienced the opposite. We know spring because we have winter. We know summer because we have autumn. We know hunger because we've experienced satisfaction. We know deprivation because we've experienced fulfillment. We know love because we've experienced pain. And so without the opposites, we wouldn't have the perspective. And if you've been through a life where you've experienced a tremendous amount of suffering, then when you start to let the pendulum swing the other way, an equal amount of joy is available to you. And I would say some of the happiest people and the most I don't want to use the word successful because that's not the right word. Some of the happiest and most joyous people you will ever meet are people who have suffered deeply, because they have experienced suffering to degrees that you or I may have, or perhaps to a depth we can't imagine. But they've come out the other side and they've experienced the relief, the gratitude that comes with knowing all things are temporary, including suffering. And they may have done that many times. You think of people like Nelson Mandela, for example, or Gandhi, people who have experienced extreme hardships and continued moving forwards in the face of adversity. And we're no different. You have the capacity to do the same, and so do I. And it may be that we're not going to revolutionise countries or political climates or ecosystems, but we can play our part for sure. And that means you don't need to go thinking that you're insignificant, that your place in life is irrelevant, because if you're here, then you have as much potential as anyone else to make a difference. If you continue moving in the direction of the things that you believe and you want to stand up for and you hold to be true. And there's a well-known quote you may or may not have heard of. I think it's attributed to Marianne Williamson, but I'm not 100% sure. But I'll place it on the screen at this point. It's something along the lines of our greatest fear. Greatest fear is not that we are inadequate, it's that we are powerful beyond measure. And risk being seen in all your glory. And all of us have the capacity to be seen for what we are, for us to discover what we are, and for us to dare to show the world what we are. And so many of us don't, because we're afraid of the judgment and the criticism and the negativity that we're convinced will come our way. But really those things are reflections of the criticism and the judgment and the negativity we hold inside against ourselves. And the moment you start to see that and accept that all negativity starts on the inside, that life can only reflect what you see of yourself or hold of yourself to be true, and that starts to change, then you stop fearing the criticism or the blame of others. And I'm sure at some point someone will watch the work I'm creating or sharing and they'll say, well, you don't know what you're talking about, you're full of crap, you're this or you're that, and maybe you're one of those people. No, the reality is I don't care. It's not my place to convince you of anything. I'm not here to sell you on some magical course that's going to solve all of your problems, because they don't exist. I'm just here to save you time. And it's taken me, let's say, 10 or 15 years to get to this point. Didn't need to. Just made it hard for myself. So that's why I want to help. If I can help, save you some of that time, get some of that time back so that you can enjoy the life that you have or the life that you want to create, then great. I'm all in favour of that. And if you're not quite ready to do that yet, well then keep watching and I'll keep playing my part to try and support you however I can. I think that's enough for today's video. I shall pause this one here, try and remember my way back to the car, and as I embark upon that journey, I'll make a second video and see what comes out there. as always, if I can help, do let me know, either by reaching out to me directly or putting something in the comments. I read the comments, I read my emails. I'm here to serve and support however I can. And I'll catch you on the next one.